Folks, the longer we all live, the more we begin to appreciate and understand differences in human personality. It's part of what makes life exciting. I'll say a little bit later, it's part of what makes couples exciting, communities exciting. Some of us, for example, are very prone to action. We just, by nature, get up and do things, and if we are reflective, the reflection sometimes takes a back seat. Some of us are more comfortable in the realm of reflection. We think, we wonder, we ideate, and we are not as comfortable stepping out into the world and acting on the world stage. This morning, I want to suggest what it could mean for each of us individually, communally, to harness the best aspects of action and reflection. And I'm going to point to a couple that we read about this morning, one of whom arguably is more comfortable in the realm of action, and the other whose comfort zone is more in the realm of reflection. I'm speaking, of course, about Rebecca and Isaac, who are going to be responsible for shepherding a particular generation in the unfolding story of our people. In this morning's parasha, Abraham, following the death of his beloved wife Sarah, has two items that he needs to take care of. One is establishing and purchasing a burial plot for Sarah and for the family. And the other is finding an appropriate spouse for his son Isaac. So, of course, we know he is an expert negotiator, a combination of humility and intelligence. He is able to purchase Me'arat HaMachpelah, the cave of Machpelah, where Sarah and the rest of the family will be buried. And toward the second goal, he sends his servants to find an appropriate wife for Isaac. And the servant is nervous. How am I going to know that I have found the right person? And he says to God, in effect, show me a sign. When I am at the well, where it was the women who would go out and draw the water, the one that I will ask for a drink, and she'll say, I won't just give you, I'll also give water for the camels, that will be the right one for Isaac. And of course, that's what he does. He actually sees Rebecca. She's coming out to draw water, end of the day, and he says to her, can I have a sip of water to drink? And she says, not only will I give you, I will also come back with water for the camels, which was no mean feat. He had 10 camels, and camels, as we know, are notoriously thirsty. She is a person, arguably, of action. She demonstrates in that moment that she offers and she does and she brings, and throughout her life she will be a person of action. We know as the story develops, she will come up with a plan to ensure that Jacob is going to receive the preferred blessing. Again and again she acts. She's not incapable of reflection. She can reflect, but her comfort zone is action. And when she first meets Isaac, interestingly, the Torah tells us, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh le'eit arev. It is almost evening, and what is he doing? Lasuach, it's not a word that appears very often, but it seems that he was taking a walk, and he was contemplating. He was just going out as the sun was setting, and he was thinking. Later, the rabbis suggested that he established the daily service of Mincha, the afternoon service. Okay, interesting interpretation. He is capable of acting, but his comfort zone is reflection. It's thinking. So I want to share a few thoughts about this. First of all, if you think about romantic compatibility, we talk a lot about dating, about finding a match. People increasingly are doing that online. Oftentimes, two individuals who have differences in their personalities will find that they complement each other, that there is a compatibility when you bring difference into a romantic partnership. But I want to speak about it more broadly. It is important specifically for my purposes this morning, discussing reflection and action. It is important to try to find the right mix and the right balance. And here are some examples. So last week, I and others in the synagogue attended the ADL's Never Is Now conference. Jonathan Greenblatt spoke very eloquently at the beginning about the work that ADL has been doing recently. Obviously, action is called for again and again in terms of calling out anti-Semitism, calling out hatred in all of its forms, and at times asking that certain sanctions, that certain consequences be imposed for those who cross certain boundaries. And we have seen that recently with entertainers, basketball players, comedians. You've been following everything that has been taking place on the world stage, and it calls for action in terms of response. But also ADL is very involved in reflection, which is trying to understand the phenomena of hatred. Not every aspect of hate is coming from the same place, even though there's a lot of overlap. And so how do you respond? How do you educate especially younger people, but not just younger people, to try to identify when even people that they look up to can be sources of hatred and sources of discrimination? If you just sit around and reflect and you don't take action, that's pointless. But if you act without proper reflection before, during, and after, then the actions are not as impactful. Second realm, Rabbi Schweber attended the Rabbinical Assembly, a conference in St. Louis. Synagogues are trying to be reflective about what intergenerational, diverse communities are looking for. What is compelling? What is the value proposition of being part of a synagogue community? That means that you don't do in 2022 exactly what you did in 1952, clearly. It means that you reflect and you ask and you gather and you weigh, and then you take action and try to determine what, as a synagogue, do we want to be doing in terms of our program, in terms of our in-reach and our outreach. Reflection and action need to go hand in hand for the best possible outcome. And lastly, I just want to reflect on it in the personal realm. Some of us are more comfortable thinking, some of us are more comfortable doing. Sometimes the people who do frustrate the people who think, and the people who think frustrate the people who do. I want us to just think about where we are in that spectrum and to challenge us to coax ourselves out of our comfort zones. If we jump into things without proper reflection, more reflection might be necessary. If we sit and perseverate and are hesitant to take action, then we might need to compel ourselves to act more. You may well be familiar with the comic strip Peanuts, very famous. And there was this classic scene that would repeat again and again. Charlie Brown loved to sit and reflect and wonder and dream. And there's a scene where he likes this particular girl, the little red-headed girl. And he is sitting on the bleachers watching a game, and he sees the little red-headed girl, and he says, I am getting up. I am going to walk over to her. I'm going to say hello. And he gets as far as standing up, and then he gets nervous, and he says, I'm sitting down. And then Charlie Brown sits down, and he never takes even that small action that he wanted to take. So I ask us as individuals and as a community to just take stock. If we are acting without proper thought, let's try to add the reflection. If we are reflecting but not moving forward when we need to, then let's try to tune up our actions. And as is often the case, our tradition provides us with beautiful inspiration each and every day. And I'll conclude with these words from our liturgy. Betein b'libeinu lehavin ulehaskil, lishmoa lilmod ulelamed, lishmor v'la'asot. Give us the ability to understand, to contemplate, to listen, to learn and to teach, to observe and to do. Shabbat shalom.